read and thought it's German. And I heard, I think it's AUS or OUS, maybe OUS, up in Pincher. So, hi, here we are. We're ready to get the
Yeah, well, just your first people in there, you have 5 minutes. I know this time won't be here.
And I have to leave for bell practice at about 9:45. So you get the end of the rehearsal time. But luckily, the shape is here. No, but I've been trying to rush it. Get off crazy stuff on there. Get it in one of the prayer and brochure. It helps settle it down. Yeah. What it is. She doesn't want to rush. Not particularly. Yeah. Really doesn't want her to like it either. Hopefully she'll be good for the summer. Although I think they have a way with maybe yeah, I'm sure we should much better. Yeah, kind of like. Let's get you by the sport here. I got to sport. I may not have any time. I got to sport. God. I didn't get too much spots there. I know. It's all the way around. Oh. I haven't looked at my email about I started one of the basic beans, yeah. Oh. So I haven't understood it. I probably modified from that. It's a red edge. As long as I don't hear me report today. Yeah. You know, I remember a lot of stuff. She ate it until it was black because of parasites and pork. Yeah. Oh. And she was really. And the health law. Yeah, well, apparently that was the last one. Where do you think the old man is going to sit? Oh, yeah. Over there? Yeah. Still there.
Oh, yeah, you guys are you.
That's our fun handout.
I think it's working.
I think it's working.
But I don't know.
And that's why you yeah.
Your closest to the screen, so you can read.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of reading.
Is that right? Okay.
Because I figured after last meeting, actually,
Yeah.
put up there what's in there,
Yeah.
and read it, and then they go, oh, this didn't make sense, I'd rather spend time talking.
Right.
We'd rather
We
just
agree.
spend time talking.
So,
And I think the questions in the book are different than their questions.
yeah. So anyway, we'll start, with just this question. Any reactions, thoughts, questions from the meditations class?
It made me feel like I was in the desert. Instead of coming out.
Well, weirdly, I had a problem with pride and humility. You can be as humility, humble as you can, but you're going to have a little bit of pride. Just a tiny smidgen of pride. Well, yeah, it's hard to be self-confident, but it's still pride. Yeah, it is.
And I like the distinction they drew between humility doesn't mean being self-effacing. It means, not to lording it over everybody, and they're making sure that, you know,
Everybody
whatever
knows.
you've got, you use what you've got, and that's not pride. It's just being faithful to what God has given you.
What God has worked with me, are you kidding me?
Well, I grew up with a mother who made me think I was God's gift to the world, so it drives Bev crazy.
Yeah, my mom would frequently say in front of other people, he's my son. He's so bright, I call him my son.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Susan will agree with us.
I don't know about that. Before we get into this week, I just wanted to, in the last week, and in some of the readings, they referred to a little book called the St. Augustine's Prayer Book. This is it. It's that big. You can still buy it. It's a book of devotion for members of the Episcopal Church.
Oh.
And it's been around for decades. And it tends to find its way into sort of high church life. So they spent some time talking in there about some pages from self-examination, which is in the Rite of Penance in here. And so I photocopied all of those pages for you.
Thank you.
And it looks like I cut them off when I chopped at least one of them.
No,
Is the second page cut off? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll redo it, get it to you next week. I mean, I suppose I could print them bigger. I can tell the computer to print them bigger so there wasn't, you know, 3/4 of a piece of paper that's all black. Yeah, I saw that.
So Beverly, it says in here, pride is putting self in the place of God as the center and objective of our life, or of some department thereof. It is the refusal to recognize our status as creatures, dependent on God for our existence, and placed by Him in a specific relationship to the rest of His creation. There's nothing in there that says you can't be proud because you did the job somewhere.
Right, and that didn't say that in the lesson.
Yeah.
So I don't have any intention of trying to take God's job. Thank you.
And one of the things I'm going to read, we were talking about an Orthodox rosary. If you've never seen an Orthodox rosary. Yeah. So I didn't count, but I counted enough to say that's about 10 beads, and they said it was 100 beads. So it looks like. So anyway, there we go. Now for the introduction to this week. And this is the one where we'll have to read. So somebody want to start? We'll just read paragraph. This is relevant.
If gluttony and lust are two of the 7 deadly sins, their opposites are the heavenly virtues of moderation and purity. In a world in which we want to throw ourselves into experiences, be stimulated, excited, moderation and purity can feel like anti-virtue, finger-wagging virtue, saying no just for the sake of saying it. Often, however, as a culture and as individuals, we put pleasure ahead of people. If love and respect for self and for others are absent from the pleasures of food or sex, the pleasures become empty effects and enslaving or damaging at work.
It's a
very good thing.
Yeah. There you go. Somebody else,
As a culture, we have engaged with gluttony, in particular, sin we love. Look up the word sin, and you'll soon find the of chocolate. Enjoying chocolate isn't sinful. Chocolate is a great gift. The best of natural world means the best of human ingenuity to do something extraordinary. But enjoying the chocolate enough to make it sick or continue to eat it, even turning isn't great. Nor is a culture that loves chocolate enough to tolerate child labor and enslavement to get cheap access to it.
Similar principles apply to sex and indeed to most pleasant things. Moderation isn't an empty virtue, it's a virtue that keeps us free. Enjoy chocolate, enjoy life's pleasure. They are gifts as long as joy and love for self, for others, for creative world remain at their center. And this section, it addresses the idea of moderating our experiences of pleasure, keeps us from becoming enslaved.
So take those questions, and they're the same ones I think were in your handout. And somebody dive in, pick what you want to chew on, and everybody else will few minutes.
You know, one of the things that he said in there about how obedience has kind of been gone by the wayside, to me, you know, I think it's a very true statement, and because obedience indicates that a person is somehow or another in today's world taking direction and listening to someone else other than themselves. And, you know, so much of our world is, you know, it's like, you know, the only one I have to obey is me. And I think it's very passé anymore to think you would be obeying somebody other than yourself.
That may be true in the United States.
Pardon me?
It may be true in the United States of America. I'm not sure it's true all over the world, but that's, you know, I'm just saying, I think there is, in many cultures, a reverence for those who preceded us, in Oriental religion, and honoring people who've been here, etc. And realizing that they were successful not just because of themselves. They had a village to help them. And, you know, I'm astounded, partly because of the book, the Monday book I've read about Benedict Arnold and George Washington, but also Ken Burns, the fact that we were unlucky we don't have a revolution. We were lucky, and no wonder they thought that divine providence was involved. But I think that Americans have gotten too involved with me first, and really forgotten, you know, that's not what your country can do for you, but I think too many of us are there. And then you see people who really do it. Thank goodness they're here. But I agree with you that if I think it's okay, then it's okay. And that's not true.
And yet, I think there's a real danger in blind obedience. I mean, I think obedience to God is a virtue, is a good thing, but there are a whole lot of people that I would not want to think I had to be obedient to their whims and wishes.
And so I don't think they are the person who should obey. And there are some religions who very definitely set forth the thou shalt. And if the preacher said that, you got to do it.
I think the distinction, and he brought it up at the beginning, between faithfulness and obedience. If you turn it the other way and say that obedience is faithful, then you can be really sort of legalistic, rather than, you know, you can obey the letter of the law and miss the core value that's being expressed. You know, I was thinking about this earlier this week. I remember, I think it was in conjunction to your readings of the book, that there was something that came up about the famous passage about, you know, the Sabbath was made for us. We weren't made for the Sabbath.
And so here's this law about you've got to keep the Sabbath day holy. So to be obedient to that, we have to set up all of this other stuff to make sure that we don't mess up the Sabbath day, and we forget that, well, as Jesus points out, can I heal somebody on the Sabbath? That's work. So, and he throws that out there. Is faithfulness obedience to the law, or is it obedience to the spirit of the law? The Sabbath was meant primarily to give us life. Is not carrying a pencil 2 blocks, going to increase our ability to get light. So I think that problem with obedience is supposed to be. I understand what you're saying, but it seems like there's some problems.
But even those faiths for whom there are strict rules about not doing work on the Sabbath, their animals are killed.
I'm sorry, the what?
Their animals must get tended to. Say farmers, animals must get food.
That's what Jesus uses.
And that's the example that
healing, yeah.
is the mercy of those who are in need.
I think that we have obedience usually to employers, as long as we feel the employer is fair and just and responsible. And I think about the legislators who told other enlisted people, you don't have to follow an order that is illegal. And it reminds me of Martin Luther King Jr. on a Sunday afternoon when I was obviously younger in the 60s, saying there is a law that is above the law and it's God's law. So I kind of disjointed things about that, but I was pretty obedient to my employers, and did what I was supposed to do, but I wasn't in any way stopped from doing something that my students really enjoyed. And, I was supported in that because the kids liked it a lot. We had seminars. That was not a big deal, but yeah, I think we do obedience. Certainly good for a place.
The thing that was appealed to, you mentioned this with, you don't have to follow a given order. There's a clause, I don't know where it is, former Catholics may be able to jump in and answer this question, but there is something in the Catholic teaching that says it's the law of conscience that really is the ultimate peace. If there's something that's going on and your law of conscience goes against whatever the law says, that the law of conscience sort of needs to be taken account of. And, and that would be saying that obedience to God is greater than obedience to anything else. Same kind of law of conscience.
I didn't quite get the story. I didn't hear the story about the alligator. You don't get eaten by an alligator. Did he get martyred to the alligator?
I didn't get that either. I turned the sound up as far as I can get it.
I mean, if he did, I thought.
It's almost a non sequitur in terms of everything else.
Yeah, but I think, if in fact you went to preach to the alligators who got eaten, I think that was a poor choice to obey that. Honestly, I don't think it got any brownie points to heaven. I think God gave us some wisdom for a reason. Intelligence. Yeah, really, I know you laugh, but I think that's true. God gave us some intelligence for a reason, and we really ought to use it.
Exactly. Well, in my role in healthcare, if you don't take care of yourself, you no longer have the person to care for you. Right. You can only give what you have to give. If you give everything you have without replacing yourself, then you're out.
That's the empty bucket.
Yes.
Well,
and they did say something, and maybe this is jumping ahead, about humility meaning saying that everybody else is better than you. I disagree with that. I think humility means, you're just another bozo on the bus. You're like, you're equal, different, but equal. But it doesn't mean that everybody else has got to be you, or everybody else, you have to put everybody else ahead of you. I don't think that we're being taught at all. Faith, tradition.
Number two up there, what are the challenges in here following God faithfully? Well, I'm thinking about free will that God gave us.
Right.
I think that from that springs all the challenges.
So as you put your will in alignment with God, you're free to put your will in alignment with God's will or not. So freedom. The great book by Victor Frankl about man and social came out of World War II and the death camps of World War II. Frankl asserts they can take everything from you, but your ability to make it. And
So let's move to the next.
And people want to talk about those, you want to go some other direction?
Confession is a big deal in the Catholic Church. Big deal. They push it.
Well, it means you have to identify your own shortcomings. Have self-examination is difficult. Reckoning with them, especially.
There's, I talked about it before, there's a little book of prayers that one of my professors put together, and in the back of it, he has a short form of self-examination. Going through those is sobering because it doesn't let you slide by the stuff that you know, this would be, doesn't let you slide by the stuff that you, I'm not going to read that right now. You know, it's sort of, if you go through the whole thing, it really pushes you to pay attention.
I think those last two words that you said are perhaps key to it all, is paying attention.
I'm taken by the last three words in the first question, as resource. I wonder how many Catholics look at it as a resource, given how much it's pushed. It's a resource, a demand kind of thing. I just was struck and put it in that context.
I know a lot of older people. My in-law wouldn't go to communion if they hadn't gone to confession in X amount of time.
Right, no, right. Is that, do they see that as a resource? Do they see that as a
Requirement.
A requirement, yeah.
They say, yeah.
The Catholic didn't want it recently. The priest laid it out very clearly before communion, that you could not take communion unless you had been to Mass in a certain period of time, unless you had been to a certain period of time. All the rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of extreme, I think. I never ran into that.
That was my daughter and I, we went to our Catholic priest. We were both there, and we said, okay, we're going to go. We're going to make him bless us.
I did that at a Catholic church because I went,
And he,
if I go to a Catholic church and I don't know anybody, I go crazy. If I know it's going to offend somebody that I don't know, I won't do it. But, so I went up, I was with a family who was having first meeting, and I went up like this, and the priest looked at me and said, what do you want? Is it a blessing? Excuse me. So weird.
Well, they're just as varied in their churches as ours, because we went to a funeral for my uncle in Kansas. The priest, who was Catholic, invited all who were baptized in Christ to receive communion, and we did. They were the only ones in our family who did. But, yeah.
When I was at DU, I think they had a Good Friday. I did a Good Friday for students anybody who wasn't Catholic, because they had, they had competing places, and I had this one student, I don't know who she was, but she came, and she came after the service was over, and she said, will you hear my confession? And I said, three things. One, yes, I will. Two, you need to know that I'm not a Catholic priest. I guess those are the things, she said, hear my confession anyway. It was one of those things that she wanted to be okay to go to Easter. Because it was Good Friday. So there was that sense she'd been formed in such a way that the one thing had to be done before another thing could be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only heard less than a half dozen confessions in my career. Most Episcopal clergy don't have much opportunity because most Episcopalians don't avail themselves of the resource. remember that pretty clearly. It was a typical college student confession.
I'll leave it at that.
I think there's a, I don't remember some of that stuff, but I learned it way back in grammar school. I think there was a lot of the church you had to go to confession once a year during the Easter time.
Oh. And she could have come from a really conservative diocese. I don't know.
Although, I wasn't doing that. I don't think it's, a lot of that
Is that in the Episcopal Church? In the Episcopal Church?
Catholic.
Oh, the Catholic Church, yeah.
All right, well, let's go, be humble.
I like that. It's an honest assessment. We all have faults, but God has given us all talents and gifts. It's a matter of using them for the greater good, for community, for whoever.
Heard someone say that humility isn't thinking less of ourselves. It's thinking about ourselves less.
Mm-hmm. Good, yeah. I think we're all called to do what, as much as we can, with what we have been given, with our talents, which are unique from each individual. They're all different, and that's the beauty, that's the beauty of it, that they are all, everyone is different, everyone has different talents, strengths, weaknesses, and different rely on each other. The whole is so much greater than the sum of its parts.
Kind of reminds me of when we did the online screening project in the sanctuary. So people came to me and said, would you chair that? And I said, you gotta be kidding me. I know less about all that equipment. I am the least person that should be chairing it. They said, no, you can do it. And it ended up that, my gifts is getting people together and talking to each other. And then if we have to raise money, but I always thought it was funny. I was chairing that thing, and here I was, the person that knew the least about the whole thing. So you never know.
But you're able to bring out others who didn't know more about it, and let's give them an opportunity to use their talents and express their talents in a way.
And they didn't want to share it.
Yeah.
They want to go do it. They don't want to share a group of people.
Yeah. So that's
Different skill sets.
that's a skill set, that's talent.
Any other reactions to these questions or the whole issue of humility?
I think humility historically has been used as a stick to hold people down. In a lot of Christianity.
But not this down and also back. Mm-hmm. I think particularly it's used with women.
When I had my very first sabbatical, was when I was still back in Berkeley. I've talked about this before. I wrote a commentary on carols, Christmas carols. And, of course, most of the writers of, at least in English, their Bible was the King James Bible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the language of Shakespeare, the King James Bible. And the word humble meant something differently then than it does now. Meek meant something different. Mild meant something different. And we turned all of them into sort of Casper milquetoast rather than the other stuff. And so I think that some of what we're reflecting here about humility has little less to do with what some of these words originally meant and how they morphed over time to become less than what they always appreciated that aspect of that piece of work that I did. So that. Other thoughts, or shall we go on to the last review?
Oh, please don't do that while you're driving.
I was thinking, I think
Metropolitan area. We were driving to Maryland, that would be cool.
They're talking about getting distracted.
if we got in the fire away.
Oh, I think that's one big river fire.
I do like to use prayer a lot. I use it several times a week. For sure. I prefer the longer version, although the one he shares now and in the book, in terms of the breathing in and the breathing out, you know, I think it's really helpful. But I like the way Jesus Christ all the time. It, you know, brings all of us together.
Did it so fast, I really hyperventilated. I think
You could
we
slow it
be
down.
a little slower.
Well, you know, you're talking about breathing in and breathing out, so which controls the prayer and breath?
Yeah, exactly. I tried to keep up with them, okay, I'm gonna do it tomorrow, we're not doing this.
I have done centering prayer as well. I've taken the class on the contemplative outreach here in Colorado, in Denver, actually. I don't practice it as much as I'm going, but I did the class.
Well, I was not struck that, you know, both of those that they offer, whether it's Jesus prayer or centered prayer, are a particular kind of prayer practice that are very interior, contemplative sort of thing. And I'm remembering back to, I guess it was a couple of years ago, we went to James Martin's book on how to pray, and all the other ways that were sort of lifted up in there. But I don't understand what they're saying. They're coming together as fathers and mothers. Produced a certain kind of spirituality, but Ignatian prayer and all of these other kinds are wonderful. And I'm not a contemplative. I tell my spiritual advisors, don't ask me to sit down and do the prayers. That's not how I work. Well, I'm a text person. I will read a text and I'll God speak to God in a text. And I will wrestle with God as I wrestle with the text. But I'm not going to not pay attention to my Bible.
I think that's what's helpful. I mean, I agree with you, they're both contemplative. But with the Jesus prayer, you have those, sort of that mantra, those words that you can repeat, which I think can be very helpful. You know, centering prayer has a lot of consternation, if you will. Like, I can't stop the thoughts in my head, blah, blah, blah. Whereas, I think, other than the 45-minute drive, just being able to say that over and over, or using a set of prayer beads, maybe not necessarily this way. But there are applicable prayer beads that you can do, which is prayer, for the 7 sections.
No, I read once, and gosh, I wish I was the person who knew her name. It was some very holy woman, but I can't tell you. Said that she never got stressed about intruding thoughts while she did centering prayer. Because if she had 1,000 intruding thoughts, that was 1,000 opportunities to turn her focus back to God. And what could be better than that? So I was like, yes, I can't feel it. There's a key is that, we're good.
Yeah, I can do that.
But that was really helpful to me, because I do enjoy centering prayer, but like, you know, it's easy to get into that. Well, to get out of humility, I think, is really what happens, and get into I should be able to do this better. That was a helpful statement.
Well, I like what Victoria said, that went on in my head. More things about centering prayer that were really helpful. So what she said was getting in touch with the God that's already in you. I really liked that, so that, you know, I took the class and everything, but I don't remember that in terms of, am I searching for something while I'm doing this? And that's super helpful, but I'm not searching. It's already there.
we've had miracles happen, great. But I always remember one man, we thought we were going to pray for him, healing from cancer. Usually before we pray for him, we ask him what would you like us to do. And he said, I would like you to pray for all the people that will be around, that were close to me when I pass away. And it just kind of struck me, you know, that, you know.
That's a beautiful example.
Yeah. We had a lady in church, some churches ago, who was dying of stomach cancer, and at this point, she was dying, and really kind of looked like a skeleton, which I was a teenager, creeped me out. But, you know, just because but we held a prayer service for her, and the place was packed. And she stood up and said, I know you think you've come to pray for me, but I have come to pray for you.
Yeah.
It was like, oh.
Yeah, there's always, when I do funerals, there's the collect that has at the beginning of you know, it's usually about the person. And I always have, there's another one that you can add, and I always add it has to do with those who are still. Funerals are not about the person. They're not about everybody.
Everyone else.
All right, well, thank you all.
Thank you. Tell me the name of that prayer book again.
It's St. Augustine's prayer book.
Oh, that's it, okay.
Yeah, that's all.
I got it written down right.
You can find it down there.
I'm sure Amazon has. I have one, but mine is a little black leather one.
Yeah, well, it's cheap, I buy.
I don't remember.
I buy the
Super
ones that cheap buy them.
expensive.
So I don't know if this will help at all, but I have experienced when you travel, then it magnifies the volume.
Oh, hell yeah.
Maybe
I've
we
heard
put
that
it in a
before.
big cover or like a
We bought 4 liters, and they all came out of different pockets.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's production value. The production
Right, right.
value of
I
it.
just don't know if that might help. Might not. Cool.
I'm not doing business. You can do that.
Management today. Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe